I've been lied to all of my life by those terrible evolutionists. At least that's what Kyle Butt of the World Video Bible School wants me to believe. But should I? I will get into that in just a moment. From a young age, I have been fascinated by evolution, this amazing phenomenon that I learned at first from whatever books on the subject I could get my hands on, and later on from a few classes in school, explains how an unimaginably ancient organism eventually became the ancestor of all life that exists today on Earth. From me, to you, to my cat Amber, to the trees outside my window. However, Kyle Butt of the World Video Bible School believes that all of this is nonsense, that I've been lied to my entire life, and that the reasons that I thought were good reasons to believe in evolution are actually bad ones. In a 2019 video titled 6 Reasons Not to Believe in Evolution, he presents his case.
In the year 2002, in Cobb County, Georgia, there was a sticker that was placed on the inside cover of the biology textbook.
And since this is Cobb County, Georgia, I can assume that the sticker is one that reflects a sober understanding of how the process of science works, right?
That sticker simply said that these textbooks contain information on evolution. Evolution is a theory, not a fact, about living organisms.
The good old confusion about the well-known word theory. Where would we be without it? Fact is, the word theory in theory evolution is a reference to how the term theory is used in actual scientific nomenclature. You see, very often in slang speech, the term theory is used to describe one possible explanation for something that someone just throws out that may or may not even have any merit to it. Seems to me that Cobb County officials wanted you to think, and possibly themselves think, that that is what the word theory in theory of evolution means. However, when scientists use the term theory, they are referring to the explanation of a phenomenon that is accepted by the consensus of the experts in the relevant field. An idea is elevated to the level of theory by repeatedly surviving attempts to disprove it. Does that make a theory infallible? No, science never puts that much confidence in any idea. But the more attempts at disproof an idea survives, the more reliable it is. And by the time it is considered theory, it surely is more reliable than an idea that is taken from an ancient tradition of belief that has not survived such rigorous attempts at refutation. And few, if any, theories have withstood more rigorous attempts at refutation than the theory of evolution.
And it should be looked at with an open mind, studied carefully, and critically considered.
Yes, it should be studied carefully and critically considered by people who actually know what they are doing. And as I just said, it has been. More so than just about any other theory out there. But despite all that, it remains the standing scientific theory. Perhaps this might be a good reason for a young student who is just learning about biology to consider that maybe, just maybe, there is something to that theory. Just a thought.
Here are 6 supposed evidences for evolution that simply are not good reasons to believe in evolution.
Mr. Butt, do you know what will happen if you successfully demonstrate that the evidence for evolution really is not all that it is cracked up to be? I will tell you what will happen. You will get a Frelling Nobel Prize. Of course, that would require you to truly demonstrate it in a scientific manner. I do not think that you will get that Nobel Prize by using deceptive rhetoric to pull the wool over the eyes of high school and college students and maybe some adults who lack the skills and/or objectivity to see through your deception. So which of the two are you doing? Is there a Nobel Prize in your future? Or are you just tricking those who aren't savvy to you? In this 2-part video response to you, let us review your case and find out.
Number one, vestigial organs.
Yes, vestigial organs are a phenomenon that is better explained by evolution than by the notion of us all just having been designed by an omnipotent, omniscient, omnibenevolent being. Are they themselves proof of evolution? No, not single-handedly, but they do lend support to the case. Although I would say they surely refute and are enough to throw out intelligent design. As a matter of fact, the teaching of unintelligent design, which is part of Pastafarianism, the parody religion of the flying spaghetti monster, which few, if any, people actually take seriously, fares much better in the face of vestigial organs than does intelligent design, which is fanned by Christian creationism. So no, vestigial organs do not prove evolution, but they do disprove intelligent design, and by extension, all Christian creationism, whether young Earth or old Earth.
In fact, the argument goes that if humans evolved, then they would have had at one time organs that an animal would have used in a certain way, but would no longer be used in that way in the human body.
Yes, they would no longer be used in that way. That is, of course, not to say that they will not be used at all. Granted, some vestigial organs serve no use at all, but there are others that do still serve a purpose, but no longer what was once their primary purpose. As a matter of fact, there are plenty of examples of structures that initially evolved to serve one purpose and no longer serve that purpose, but now serve a different purpose. Such structures subsequently evolved to be more effective at their newer function, often at the expense of their ability to serve their original, no longer needed function. Take, for example, the flippers of a penguin. Those things, they evolved from wings, but they no longer are useful for flight. But are they altogether useless? Not at all. They are very useful for swimming. Those wings in turn evolved from the arms of earlier theropod dinosaurs, which in turn evolved from the front legs of earlier reptiles, and so forth, all the way back to the fins of our common fish ancestors, which, like the flippers of the modern penguins, were used for swimming. Almost like in this case, the chain of vestigiality has gone full circle. And no, chains of vestigiality do not always go full circle like that, but very often a structure in the body that has lost what was once its primary function does find a new one.
If you did have vestigial organs in your body, that wouldn't prove evolution. You see, evolution has to go from a single-celled organism to a human.
No, it does not have to. It just happened to do so. Evolution does not have a manifest destiny. It is a fairly aimless process. Mutations happen randomly, and from the variety that results, the ones that are most suited for the current situation are simply more likely to survive, with no regard for what may result from that in 1,000 years, let alone millions of years. It just so happened that one of those aimless chains of evolution eventually stumbled on what we today refer to as humanity. But that was by no means something that had to happen.
And you don't need organs that are decaying and atrophying. You need evolution to produce new organs.
But the two are not mutually exclusive. There can be new organs evolving to aid survival in new situations, as well as others that are degenerating from a use that they once served but no longer are needed for. And as I previously explained, sometimes those organs are one and the same, such as the flippers, aka vestigial wings, of a penguin. That said, evolution does not have a manifest destiny. It is aimless. It does not have some predestined goal that it has to get closer and closer to. And sometimes something that we needed an organ to do for our very survival 1,000,000 years ago, we just no longer need it for anymore.
We should find wings that are almost ready to allow organisms to fly that can't yet fly.
Oh, you mean like wings that allow an animal to glide but not to fly? Yes, we see plenty of those in nature. whether in the gliding allowed by such wings used to get from one tree to another, to reduce the damage if you happen to fall off of a tree, or even to jump farther or higher in order to either escape from a predator or catch prey. There are plenty of such wings in nature, and some of them potentially in the future, given enough time and the right evolutionary pressures, can evolve into wings capable of actual powered flight.
We should see things adding information, not losing genetic information.
Actually, considering the utter aimlessness of evolution, we would expect to see both of these. Both the adding of new genetic information and the loss of old genetic information, just as you see both the development of new organs and the deterioration of old ones.
Number 2, the idea of homology. We're told that similarity proves ancient ancestry.
And now it is time for an installment of Fallacy Exposed. And your fallacy is the straw man fallacy, a fallacy that you commit when instead of addressing someone's actual position, you address a weaker, easier to attack caricature of their position. I literally have no recollection of ever having been taught that similarity proves any common ancient ancestry. Yes, I have heard that it can be a result of shared common ancestry, but at other times, similarity can simply result from mere convergent evolution.
Supposed evidence for evolution number 3, the fossil record.
Yes, the fossil record is very important for the study of evolution. It is from the fossil record that we know a lot about the history of how evolution brought us to where we are today. Of course, it cannot tell us much about the mechanisms of evolution. That we know from other sources, but it does give us insight into the courses of evolution that ancient organisms took that resulted in what we have today. Of course, I would not say that it by itself proves evolution. To single-handedly prove evolution, it would have to categorically disprove all alternatives. And yes, it does disprove some ideas that some folk like to hold on to in denial of evolution, such as young Earth creationism. But there are other explanations that are compatible with the fossil record, such as old Earth creationism. Of course, there are other pieces of evidence to refute those explanations, but the fossil record itself only disproves some of the alternatives to evolution. So yes, while it is not in itself proof of evolution, it is indeed evidence for it. And it indeed is a reason by itself to not take seriously any belief that includes young Earth creationism.
Evolutionist Mark Ridley stated that no real evolutionist, whether gradualist or punctuationist, uses the fossil record as evidence in favor of the theory of evolution as opposed to special creation. Now, why would he say that?
Yes, it did seem strange to me that an actual proponent of evolution would say such a thing, so I did a Google search on the matter. Do you think that what I found was something that shattered everything that I thought I knew about natural selection, disproving evolution for once as a lie and giving credence to the kind of creationism espoused by Mr. Butt? No, it did not. What I actually found was that Mr. Butt is taking this quote out of context. I found a page on the Don Lindsay archive explaining that the quote was referring to the same fact that I just mentioned, that there exist versions of creationism, specifically old Earth creationism, that cannot be disproven by means of the fossil record alone. Of course, I was not able to read the quote in a greater context because it supposedly came from a 1981 issue of New Scientist magazine, and the archives that I am able to find of the magazine only go back to 1990. And even if they did go as far back as 1981, there would still be paywall issues standing in my way. But still, even without taking Dr. Lindsay's word for it, even if Mark Ridley really had said something which even in context would seem like he had completely conceded to the creationists, then that would be time for another installment of Fallacy Exposed. And this time the fallacy would be appeal to authority, a categorization of fallacies that you commit when you give more credence to someone's authority than you ought to. Even if Mark Ridley renounces evolution, which I have no evidence that he in fact does, that does not necessarily mean that he is right in doing so. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed part 1 of this presentation. Stay tuned for part 2, which is linked to in this video's YouTube video description area. Please leave your comments in the comments area below. Make sure that the thumbs up button is clicked, as well as the subscribe button, and ring the bell. Also, in this video's video description area, you can find a link to the Stay in Touch page of my blog, where you can find additional ways to keep up with the going-ons of this channel. The Stay in Touch page even will give you a link to my Discord server. So, keep your minds open while at the same time keeping them tethered to reality. And until next time, see ya!